Chapter 1. The sleepless nights begin. "Who are you texting at 2 a.m.? I asked, rubbing my eyes, voice low and hoarse from sleep. Melanie didn't look up from her glowing phone screen. She just muttered, "Just work stuff? Go back to sleep." I blinked against the darkness of our bedroom, faintly illuminated by the soft blue light from her screen. The room was quiet except for the ticking of the wall clock and the soft buzz of her manicured thumb gliding across the touchscreen. Something didn't feel right. "Who works at 2 in the morning?" I asked again, sitting up slightly, propping myself against the headboard. My joints ached after a long 10-hour shift fixing a commercial HVAC unit in a shopping center. My boots were still by the door. I hadn't even gotten around to unpacking my lunchbox. Melanie finally glanced at me, her expression tight. "It's the quarter-end audit, Dan. You wouldn't understand. Just let me handle my work, okay?" I wanted to say more, but the tone in her voice was clipped, dismissive. She'd been talking to me like that more and more lately. I laid back down without another word, turning away from her. But I didn't sleep. For the rest of the night, I stared at the ceiling, listening to the faint sound of her fingernails tapping her screen. "My name's Oliver Brooks. I'm 41, been working HVAC since I was 19. Built a steady business over the years, nothing glamorous, but it pays the bills, and then some. I've got a solid reputation in town. Guys know I don't cut corners, and customers trust me. Married to Melanie for 17 years. 2 kids. Emma's 15, Kyle's 13. Good kids, mostly. Moody, but that's teenagers. At least, I thought everything was good. Until recently. Over the past few months, things started shifting. Melanie used to greet me at the door when I got home. Now she barely glances up from her laptop. Her laughter used to fill the kitchen when we cooked together. Lately, I'd hear her laughing, but only when she was on her phone in the next room, and it wasn't for me. She started going to the gym religiously. And not just jogging or yoga, weights, spin classes, toning. New leggings, new sneakers, new lingerie that I hadn't even seen her wear at home. The lace tags were still in the hamper. "Trying to get healthier," she'd say, brushing off my raised eyebrow. "You should join me sometime." She knew damn well I was up at 5 and worked until 6, sometimes later. Gym wasn't even on my radar. I'm not a slob. I still lift compressors and haul ductwork every day, but I don't count macros or take selfies in the mirror. That wasn't our thing. Or maybe it wasn't mine anymore. One night, about a week later, I got home late after an emergency call. A restaurant's AC had shorted out, and I didn't want to leave them stranded. When I walked in, Melanie was on the phone in the kitchen. She didn't hear me come in. I know, right? I swear, he's like a walking flannel. No ambition. Just stuck. She laughed, that high-pitched one I hadn't heard since before we got married. My heart sank, and I stepped back before she could see me. I waited a beat, then entered the room loud enough to make my presence known. She flinched and ended the call. "Hey," she said too casually. "Didn't hear you come in." "Who was that?" She turned toward the sink. "Stacy from accounting. She's going through a thing with her fiancé." I just nodded and set my bag down. She didn't offer dinner. She didn't ask how my day was. And I didn't ask again. Not yet. The kids were changing too. Emma rolled her eyes every time I asked her to set the table. "Why don't you ever ask Mom to help?" she snapped one night. "She works too, you know." Kyle chimed in, "Yeah, all you do is bark orders when you're home." I was stunned. I wasn't some drill sergeant. I just wanted a little help at dinner. But they looked at me like I was the bad guy. Melanie stayed quiet that time, pretending to scroll through her phone. Later that night, I tried to talk to her. We lay side by side in bed, separated by the length of our king-size mattress and what felt like a canyon of silence. "Have I done something?" I asked quietly. She didn't answer right away. "No," she said finally. "You've just been tired. A lot. We're in different places right now." "Different places?" I echoed. She sighed and turned away. "Just drop it. You wouldn't understand." Same line again, like a record on repeat. I started waking up in the middle of the night, finding the bed empty. Melanie downstairs, whispering on her phone. The conversations always ended the moment she heard me approach. I pretended to be looking for water, but my gut screamed something was off. I checked the garbage once, saw a receipt from a trendy wine bar we'd never gone to. 2 glasses of red. 1 appetizer. Midweek. She told me she had been working late that night. One afternoon, I pulled into the driveway early after a job got canceled. I stepped inside quietly and heard her laughing upstairs. You should have seen the way he looked when I told him I was busy. Pathetic. My stomach nodded. When I opened the door, she was sitting on the edge of our bed, phone in hand, but she immediately put it down. Hey, babe, she said sweetly, too sweetly. You're home early. Yeah. Canceled call. She looked nervous. I wanted to ask. I wanted to explode. But I didn't. I just nodded, went to shower, and let the silence speak. That night, I lay awake again, watching the ceiling, listening to her breathe evenly beside me, already asleep or pretending. Something was happening. Something was shifting beneath the surface of our life, and I could feel it like a slow leak in a tire. But I couldn't prove anything. Not yet. I loved her. God help me, I still loved her. Maybe I was imagining things. Maybe I was tired. Maybe this was just a phase. But the doubt had settled in my chest like cement. My love wanted to believe her, but my instincts whispered something different. And I didn't know which one to listen to. Not yet. Chapter 2. Cold dinner, colder shoulders. The house used to feel warm when I got home, smelled like dinner on the stove, heard the kids laughing upstairs, Melanie humming in the kitchen. Now, it felt like stepping into a freezer. No welcome, no warmth. One Thursday night, I walked in after a brutal day fixing a rooftop unit during a rainstorm. My clothes were still damp. My boots squished as I stepped inside. Melanie didn't even look up from the couch. She was watching some Netflix series with a glass of white wine. I dropped my tool bag by the door, kicked off my boots. Hey, I offered, standing there like a soaked ghost. Hey, she replied flatly, eyes still on the screen. No, how was work? No smile. Nothing. I peeked into the kitchen. The counter was empty, save for some crumbs and a bowl in the sink. Did you guys eat already? I asked. Yeah, she said. Kids grabbed leftovers. I wasn't really hungry. I didn't expect much, just a plate wrapped in foil maybe. A note. Something. Instead, I microwaved 2 eggs and a slice of ham and ate standing up, listening to the canned laughter from the living room. After a few bites, I said, I was thinking maybe we could do dinner out this weekend? Just you and me. She didn't answer at first. Then, without looking away from the TV, she muttered, We'll see. I've got a lot going on with quarter end. I chewed slowly, nodding to myself. Quarter end. Again. Later that week, she came into the garage while I was fixing the water heater's pilot light. She leaned against the doorway, arms crossed, in one of those new expensive-looking blouses she never wore around the house. You ever think about doing something different? She asked. I glanced up from my wrench. Different? Yeah, I don't know. Something with more direction. Ambition. I straightened. I run my own business. I got steady clients. Solid money. That's not enough. She shrugged. It's just, you've been doing the same thing forever. Doesn't it get boring? I wiped my hands on a rag. No, it gets hot and heavy, and sometimes it breaks your back. But boring? Nah, I fix things. People need that. She gave a dry little laugh. That's the thing with you, Dan. You're always fixing things, not thinking bigger. I mean, other men your age are moving up, buying property, starting second ventures. You just keep doing what you know. I clenched my jaw. You mean other men like your boss? Her eyes flicked up for a half second. I didn't say that. No, but you didn't have to, I replied, turning back to the heater. She left without another word. Her heels echoed down the hallway, sharp and final. The next few nights, she stayed up late again, sometimes until 2 or 3 in the morning. Said she was working. I saw the light under the office door. Heard her giggle once, too soft and intimate for spreadsheets. I started sleeping on the couch more often. At first, I made excuses, said I didn't want to wake her when I came in late. But the truth was, she barely moved when I crawled into bed next to her. Sometimes she rolled away. Most times, she was already face down in her pillow like a wall had gone up between us. I'd lie there on the couch, staring at the ceiling, listening to the hum of the fridge and the occasional text chime from upstairs. One night, Kyle wandered into the living room around midnight. Dad, I sat up. Hey, buddy, what's up? He rubbed his eyes. Why are you out here? Just couldn't sleep. I lied. The mom okay? I hesitated. Yeah, just grown-up stuff. He nodded, then turned to go back upstairs. I sat there until dawn, heart heavy. The emotional distance turned into physical absence. She stopped touching me. Even accidental brushes in the hallway felt staged, like she pulled away on purpose. One Saturday morning, I made her coffee the way she liked, hazelnut cream, 1 sugar, and brought it up while she was doing her makeup. "Thanks," she said, taking it without looking at me. I leaned against the doorframe. "You look nice." She paused, just for a second, then resumed applying eyeliner. "Got a meeting downtown. On a Saturday?" "Yep. Johnson and Allen are prepping for Q2 projections. Never heard of weekend audits before." She met my eyes in the mirror. "Things changed, Dan. I wanted to ask if Johnson wore cologne and texted her at 2 a.m., but I bit my tongue. Instead, I nodded and walked away. That night, I tried again. We sat at the dinner table in silence, just me and her. The kids were out with friends. I watched her push salad around her plate. "So, I made a reservation at Johnny's," I said, keeping my voice steady. "Figured we could have a night out. Just us." She looked up, genuinely puzzled. "For what?" "For us," I said. "A date night." She sighed and leaned back in her chair. "Dan, I just told you I've got so much going on. I can't." "Melanie," I said carefully, "it's been months since we spent any time together. You come home, you disappear into your office or your phone. I'm just trying to reconnect here." Her eyes narrowed. "Well, maybe if you weren't stuck in the same old routine, I wouldn't feel like I'm living with a roommate." The words hit harder than I expected. I stared at her, fork halfway to my mouth. She stood, carried her untouched plate to the sink, and dumped it out. "Don't make me the bad guy, Dan," she said, her back to me. "I'm just trying to keep up with my life. Maybe you should try the same." I watched her walk upstairs, heels tapping like gunshots. I sat there, the silence louder than ever. The kitchen clock ticked behind me. I looked at the reservation confirmation on my phone and deleted it. Chapter 3. You wouldn't understand. The whispers weren't loud, but they were sharp enough to cut through drywall. It was late, past 11 p.m. on a Wednesday. I had come back from a job across town, dropped my boots quietly in the mudroom, and started up the stairs. The house was dark except for the thin strip of light under the office door. Melanie's voice drifted out, hushed and urgent. "He just doesn't get it. He wouldn't understand. He's not like you." I froze halfway up the steps. My hand gripped the banister, heart suddenly pounding in my chest. I stood there, breath held, like some burglar in his own home. A pause followed. Then I heard her laugh, a soft, almost shy kind of laugh I hadn't heard in years. The kind she used to give me when we were dating. When everything felt new. The chair creaked. Papers shuffled. Her voice dropped again. You see me, you know? He never really did." The words sliced clean through me. I didn't move. Couldn't. For a moment, I thought I might be sick. My ears rang. Then a faint creak in the stair made the floorboard groan under my sock. The conversation stopped. A second later, the door opened. "Oh," she said, feigning surprise. "You're home." "Yeah," I managed, trying to keep my voice level. "Just walked in." "You on the phone?" She nodded quickly. "Yes, Stacy. She's going through a mess with her fiancé. We've been venting all week." Sounded personal. Melanie shrugged and leaned against the doorframe. "It is personal. She feels like he doesn't understand her." Same old story. I raised an eyebrow. "Weird. Sounded like you were the one being misunderstood." She didn't flinch, didn't blink. I was relating to her situation. "Jesus, Dan, don't make a federal case out of everything. You're tired. I'm tired. Let's not do this." She turned and walked past me toward our bedroom, leaving the scent of her citrus shampoo in the air. Just like that, the conversation was over. But not for me. The next morning over breakfast, I tried to be normal. Kyle was eating cereal, Emma was tapping away on her phone, and Melanie sat across from me, dressed in a sleek navy blouse, full makeup done. Not even 7.30. "You heading in early?" I asked, trying to keep it casual. "Yeah," she said, sipping coffee. "Lots of prep before the team meeting." Emma looked up. "Is that the one with your boss?" "The one you said was hot." Melanie shot her a warning glare. "Emma." I blinked. "Hot." Melanie let out a nervous laugh. "She's being dramatic." I said he's young. "Not hot." Emma rolled her eyes. "Whatever." I didn't say anything. Just took another bite of toast and mentally filed it away. That's when I started keeping notes. I didn't do anything fancy, just a locked file on my phone labeled HVAC quotes. Inside were timestamps, receipts, bits of dialogue, offhand comments. I noted what she wore on certain days, whether the gym bag was in the car, who she said she was with. I wasn't trying to catch her. Not yet. I was trying to understand. Because for weeks now, she'd been drifting. Cold. Detached. And that whisper on the phone, "He's not like you," wasn't about Stacy or her damn fiancé. I knew it. In my gut, I knew it. But gut feelings don't hold up in a courtroom. Or a divorce. A week passed. Then two. Melanie stayed late at work nearly every other night. She claimed the company was ramping up for a product launch. I asked what product. "It's confidential," she said, brushing past me on her way to the laundry. Confidential. Since when did executive assistants sign NDAs? I watched her from the kitchen, folding her gym leggings into perfect squares, her expression unreadable. I remembered when we used to do laundry together, joking about whose socks were more mismatched. Now she treated me like furniture. That night, I tried to reach out again. "You know," I said as we got ready for bed, "we could use a weekend away. Just us. Clear our heads. Maybe take the kids to the lake house for a change of pace." She didn't look up from her makeup remover. "Dan, I don't have time for that. Not right now. You always don't have time. For me. For us." She turned, eyes tired but sharp. "You're imagining things. You always do this, get in your head, then start blaming me. I've got responsibilities too, you know. You wouldn't understand." There it was again. You wouldn't understand. Like a damn mantra. 2 nights later, I woke up to that now familiar glow of her phone. It was 2:07 a.m. I rolled over slowly. She sat on the far edge of the bed, back turned, fingers tapping rapidly. I kept my eyes nearly shut, feigning sleep. I heard her whisper, barely audible. "You get me like he never could," she giggled softly. Then silence. I lay frozen, my chest tight. A cold sweat crept across my back. This wasn't in my head. This wasn't just work stress or a midlife funk. Something was happening. Someone was happening. When she finally put her phone down and slipped under the covers, I pretended to stir. "You okay?" I asked groggily. "Yeah," she replied. "Go back to sleep." But I couldn't. I stared at the ceiling for what felt like hours, my mind racing. Then I got up, careful not to wake her, and padded into the hallway with my phone. I found an app I'd heard about in a tech forum, quiet, subtle, and cloud-synced. A phone mirroring tool that could be discreetly installed and paired. I didn't want to be this guy, the snooper, the spy. But I also wasn't going to be the fool. I downloaded it, set it to hide, then slid back into bed beside her like nothing had happened. My heart pounded. My palms were slick. Whatever truth was hiding behind her late-night whispers and confidential meetings, I was done pretending I couldn't hear it. Chapter 4. Shattered Glass and Broken Truth. The first message came through while I was under a crawl space. I was shoulder-deep in insulation, a wrench in one hand, and a flashlight clamped between my teeth. My phone buzzed twice in quick succession in my back pocket. Normally, I'd ignore it. Client time was client time, but something in my gut twisted. I wriggled out, wiped my hands, and checked the screen. Incoming message. Melanie's device synced. "You're the only one who makes me feel alive." My hands froze mid-swipe. Another one came in seconds later. "Can't wait to taste those lips tomorrow in your office." I didn't feel the cold anymore. Didn't feel the ache in my back or the sweat clinging to my neck. I just stood there, blinking at the screen. This wasn't a friend venting. This wasn't some inside joke or emotional support from colleague. This was seduction, familiarity, desire. Melanie had never sent me texts like that, not even when we were first together. A lump formed in my throat, thick and suffocating. I sank down against the wall of the crawl space, my mind spinning. And then the next message came. "He's just a paycheck. I'm yours." That line hit like a steel pipe to the chest. I stared at it, reread it. I even locked the screen, unlocked it, just to make sure I wasn't imagining it. Paycheck. That's what I was to her now. Not a husband. Not the father of her children. Just a bi-weekly deposit. The buzz came again. One final dagger. "That loser appreciates what you can't. You're my second husband." I nearly dropped the phone. Second husband. The term was so casual, so smug, like it had been normalized between them, like she'd joked about it more than once. And what did that make me? Just the dull, used-up placeholder. The background prop she used to pay the bills while she snuck kisses in a corner office and whispered promises into another man's ear. My breathing slowed. Shallow. Controlled. The rage didn't come right away, not in the way you might expect. There was no primal scream, no shattered toolboxes or broken drywall. Just silence. Deafening silence. Like my entire body had shut down to protect the last flicker of my sanity. I pocketed the phone and climbed out. That night, Melanie was in the kitchen, sipping wine and laughing at something on her tablet when I walked in. Her hair was in loose curls, done up nice, not the usual ponytail. She had a silk blouse on, tucked into high-waisted jeans that hugged her curves perfectly. For a moment, I just watched her from the doorway. I remembered the first time I saw her. It was at a diner of all places. She dropped a glass tray full of coffee cups and muttered, "Damn it," under her breath, cheeks burning red. I've been sitting with my brother, watching football and nursing a cold one. And when she looked up, sweaty, flustered, gorgeous, I smiled at her. She smiled back. That night, I left my number on a napkin with a $20 tip. 3 weeks later, she moved in with me. I taught her how to drive stick. She taught me how to actually fold fitted sheets. I worked overtime to buy her first real engagement ring. Nothing big, but it had meaning. I cooked for her, changed diapers, sacrificed weekends and sleep so she could finish her night classes. I turned down job offers that required relocation because she didn't want to uproot the kids. I chose her again and again. And now she was here, sipping wine, texting some little Armani-clad office prick about tasting her lips. "Hey, babe," she said when she noticed me. "You want a glass?" I shook my head. "Nah, just gonna take a shower." She nodded, not a flicker of guilt on her face. She didn't know I knew. I sat under the hot spray, hands braced against the tile, eyes shut. The messages looped in my mind like a movie I couldn't stop replaying. "You're the only one who makes me feel alive. He's just a paycheck, I'm yours. That loser appreciates what you can't." Each line carved deeper than the last. And yet, I didn't cry. I didn't scream or punch walls. Instead, I started thinking, planning. The pain, the raw betrayal, was slowly crystallizing into something harder, colder. It wrapped itself around my chest like ice. The kind that doesn't melt. The kind that preserves things. I got out of the shower, dried off, and looked in the mirror. There was a time I'd look into that reflection and see a tired man. A provider. A guy who maybe let himself go a bit, but always tried to do right by his family. Now I saw something else forming. Not a man in pain. A man preparing. I didn't confront her. Not that night. Not the next morning either. Instead, I memorized her schedule. Her tells. The way she locked her phone twice instead of once. I watched the way she texted with her screen tilted away from me. I started noting which outfits were for work and which were clearly for someone else. And every time she lied, every working late, every girl's dinner, every forced yawn to sell the exhaustion, I nodded. Played along. But inside, I was watching the world we built together rot from the inside out. And I was done pretending it didn't stink. Melanie thought she had me figured out. The tired husband, the pushover, the dumb paycheck. But what she didn't see, what she never saw, was that I wasn't stupid. I was quiet. And there's a difference. Because silence, when it's born from pain, doesn't stay silence for long. It sharpens. It aims. And soon it strikes. Chapter 5. The birthday that broke me. I woke up to the smell of coffee and the hum of the morning news echoing from the living room. It was June 18th, my 42nd birthday. I sat up in bed and waited. Waited for the sound of little feet rushing in with a crooked card. For the kiss on the cheek. For the half-burned pancakes I'd smile and eat anyway. Nothing. The house stayed still. Cold. Familiar in all the wrong ways. Melanie wasn't in bed. Her side was made, tucked neat and tight. I shuffled out, pulling on a shirt, and found her already dressed, heels clicking across the kitchen tile. She was applying lipstick in a microwave reflection, barely glancing at me as I walked in. "Morning," I offered, hoping for something. She gave me a nod. "Morning." That was it. No happy birthday. No card. No smile. Just a nod. Kyle was sitting at the table, scrolling through his phone, earbuds in. Emma was at the counter buttering toast, her eyes flicking between the toaster and her own screen like she was defusing a bomb. I cleared my throat. Nothing. I grabbed a mug, poured myself some coffee, and took a seat across from Kyle. I looked at Emma. So, what's everyone got planned today? School, Dad, Emma said, not looking up. Like always. Right, I said quietly. Just figured, maybe dinner tonight? My treat. Melanie grabbed her bag and tossed her phone in. I'll be working late. Presentation for the quarterly board. Of course. Maybe this weekend then? She shrugged. I'll let you know. By the time I got home, the sun was setting behind the neighbor's fence. The driveway was full, Melanie's car, Emma's, even her friend's little white Prius parked halfway on the curb. Inside, the living room was littered with shopping bags. Kyle was on the Xbox. Emma was curled up on the couch, chatting on FaceTime. Nobody looked up. I stood there for a second, holding the little chocolate cake I'd picked up from the bakery down the street. I'd even asked them to write to Dad, "Happy 42nd," in white frosting. It was small, sad even, but it was mine. I cleared my throat again. Hey, anyone hungry? Emma glanced up and raised a brow. What's that? Cake, I said, trying to smile. It's my birthday today. Kyle didn't even look away from the screen. Huh, didn't know. Melanie entered from the hallway, flipping through something on her phone. Oh, right. Sorry, I've just been swamped today. Yeah, I said, setting the cake down gently on the counter. I figured. We ate in silence while they ate. I wasn't really hungry. We didn't even cut the cake. Melanie reheated some leftover pasta, and the kids helped themselves. No cheers, no candle, no song. Just chewing. Phones. Flickering TV light. About halfway through dinner, Melanie looked at me across the table. You know, Oliver, I really think you need to step up. I blinked. Step up. She crossed her arms, her tone suddenly sharpening. Yeah, I mean, you're always tired, always working late, but what do we have to show for it? No vacations. No family time. Just bills and silence. My mouth opened, but no words came out. Emma chimed in, her voice flat. You're always working. Maybe if you tried harder, Mom wouldn't be so unhappy. The fork dropped from my hand. I stared at her. She looked back at me with those same green eyes Melanie had, but colder, like she didn't see her father anymore, just a problem. My chest tightened. I looked at Kyle. Nothing. He was still in the living room, headset on, oblivious. Mel, I said quietly, you really think I haven't been trying? She sighed. Trying isn't enough anymore. Look around. Do you even see what we're dealing with? I carry the emotional load here. You just come home, eat, and pass out. I felt the air go out of the room. All I could hear was my heartbeat. Slow. Thunderous. I wanted to scream. I wanted to shove the cake off the counter and ask what the hell she was really doing at work late nights. I wanted to ask if he knew today was my birthday. If he texted her. If he got a thank you that I never would. But I didn't. I stood. I walked to the bedroom, grabbed a small overnight bag, and tossed in 2 shirts and a pair of jeans. I took my wallet, keys, and phone. Left the cake. Melanie was still sitting there when I passed by the dining room again. Where are you going now? She asked, exasperated. I paused at the door. For some air, I said softly. Don't wait up. And I left. The motel was a few miles down the freeway. Cheap, dull, smelling faintly of mildew and cigarette smoke. But it had a bed and 4 walls, and most importantly, it had quiet. I lay back against the headboard, shoes still on, staring at the cracked plaster ceiling. My birthday. 42 years on this planet. 2 kids. 1 wife. A mortgage. A job I'd broken my back for. And now I was here, in a room where no one would come looking for me. No candles. No hugs. No appreciation. Just silence and shadows. I didn't cry. I didn't sleep. I just stared upward, listening to the hum of the ice machine outside and the occasional muffled moan from the room next door. I was used to silence now, but something had changed. This one felt final. Chapter 6. Transferring everything. The motel room light buzzed faintly overhead as Oliver sipped stale coffee from a plastic cup. He hadn't gone home in 2 days. No one had texted. No one had called. Not even Melanie. Not even the kids. At first, the silence hurt. But now it was sharpening something inside him, something quiet, focused, and cold. It was time. He flipped open the small black notebook he'd bought at the gas station across the street. The pages were already half-filled, dates, observations, call logs, bank charges, Melanie's calendar entries. Patterns. Names. Late nights that didn't match her deadlines. Screenshots from the Mirrored app. He had proof. But proof wasn't power, not yet. He needed control. He grabbed his phone and dialed a number scrawled on a sticky note. Mr. Keller, a warm voice answered. This is Alicia from Gunderson and Holt Law. We can fit you in tomorrow at 10. That still work for you? Yes, Oliver said, voice even. I'll be there. The law office was sleek, all glass and brushed steel, humming with quiet efficiency. Oliver felt out of place in his work boots and flannel shirt, but he held his shoulders firm. He wasn't here to impress anyone. He was here to disappear. Alicia met him in the lobby, a slender brunette in a navy blue suit and sharp heels. Let's get you started, she said with a kind but professional smile. Inside the conference room, Oliver sat across from Jack Anderson, the kind of attorney who looked like he ate prenups for breakfast. Walk me through what you want, Jack said, steepling his fingers. I want to protect what's mine, Oliver said quietly. And I want to walk away clean when the time comes. Jack nodded, clicking his pen. Then let's begin. Step 1 is opening a private account, separate from any joint assets. Step 2, we'll move your retirement into a protected individual trust. Step 3, we retitle any property under a legal entity, preferably a trust or LLC, makes it harder to claim in a divorce. Oliver leaned forward. Will she know if you follow my instructions? Not a chance. That afternoon, Oliver met with a financial advisor Jack had recommended, Monica Lopez, sharp-eyed and all business. She helped him move his 401k, set up an auto-transfer schedule, and reassign beneficiary designations. Remember, Monica said, this isn't hiding. It's securing. You're not stealing. You're planning. Oliver nodded slowly. Planning, he echoed. Each morning after that, he woke up before dawn. Motel gym. 30 minutes of cardio. 40 of weight training. At first, it was a struggle. His knees ached. His breath came short. But he pushed through. Then came the journaling. He wrote everything, memories, doubts, details Melanie had forgotten he remembered. Their wedding. Her first miscarriage. The way she used to run her fingers through his hair after long shifts. He wrote all. And when the pain surfaced, he didn't bury it. He documented it. Sometimes, in the evenings, he'd park outside their house just to see the lights come on. To see Kyle shoot hoops in the driveway. To watch Emma laughing on the porch with her friend, as if their world hadn't cracked in half. Melanie never noticed the truck idling down the block. She was too busy texting. One night, Oliver stared at her office's company website. Grayson Financial Group. He scrolled through the staff bios until he landed on Ethan Grayson, founder and CEO. 33. Columbia grad. Picture-perfect jawline and a cocky grin that made Oliver want to punch the screen. He read the testimonials. One caught his eye. Ethan is a visionary leader who inspires bold decisions. I'm lucky to work under him every day. Melanie Carter, executive assistant, his stomach turned. She wasn't just under him in the office. But Oliver didn't rage. He didn't smash the monitor or throw a glass. He took a breath and opened a new tab. HVAC technician jobs, Ohio, Kentucky, North Carolina. He needed out. 2 nights later, an email came through from a company in Asheville. A local, family-run operation. Full benefits. Higher pay. Clean start. They wanted an interview. The interview was over Zoom. The owner, Rick, was a gruff old-school guy with a military buzz cut and a warm laugh. You've been in the game 20 years. Rick asked, squinting at his resume. That's some serious grit. I've seen it all, Oliver replied. Crawled under rotted mobile homes. Froze my fingers in January. Fixed rooftop units in 100-degree heat. Rick smiled. I like that. I like you. How soon can you start? Oliver exhaled, something inside him uncoiling for the first time in weeks. Soon. 3 days later, Oliver stood at the dealership, staring at a matte black F-150. It wasn't brand new, but it was clean, mean-looking, and tough as hell. The salesman walked over, holding the key fob. She's a beast. You want her? Oliver didn't hesitate. Run the credit. Let's sign. That night, he drove it back to the motel and stared at the dashboard. The smell of new leather filled the cabin. The silence was no longer oppressive. It was powerful. He took out his phone. deleted his Facebook, then Instagram, then LinkedIn. He canceled his old email, created a new one under a different name. Every connection to his old life, snipped. He glanced down at his black notebook and flipped to the last page. One word written across the top, exit, and underneath, a checklist. Lawyer, trust, job secured, phone mirrored, truck, social media wiped. He checked each one off slowly, one by one, until there was only one item left. Execute plan. He stared at those words for a long time, then shut the notebook, locked it in the glove compartment, and rested his hand on the steering wheel. The plan was bulletproof now. No more waiting. No more begging. The next move would change everything. Chapter 7. Confrontation and Collapse. The sky was gray as ash when Oliver pulled up in front of the house that used to be his home. The new truck idled quietly in the driveway, like a sentinel. He sat behind the wheel for a long moment, watching the shadows move behind the curtains. The porch light hadn't been changed in weeks, still flickering. A subtle metaphor, perhaps, for what was left inside. He stepped out, boots crunching the gravel, duffel bag slung over his shoulder. He wasn't here to retrieve clothes. Not really. He had something else in the bag, something heavier than denim and flannel. The front door creaked as he opened it. Melanie was in the kitchen, back turned, wearing a wine-colored blouse and slacks like she had just come home from work. She didn't hear him at first, or maybe she ignored the sound. Either way, the moment was his. He let the door shut behind him. She turned at the click. Oliver, she blinked, surprised. You're here? You didn't say you were coming by. I know, he said calmly, walking past her. Didn't want to interrupt anything. She frowned, stepping closer. Look, if this is about the kids, or he stopped in the middle of the living room, set the duffel down, and turned. Let me ask you something, Melanie. His voice was low, quiet. How long have I been just a paycheck to you? The words landed like a slap. She blinked hard, then laughed nervously. What? What are you talking about? Cut the act. He unzipped the bag, pulled out a manila folder, and tossed it on a coffee table. Start with page 1, or the text from February. Maybe the one where you call me a loser and said he was your second husband. Her face lost all color. You went through my phone? He gave a half shrug. No, I mirrored it. I didn't need to snoop. I just watched what you freely gave to him. She stood frozen, mouth slightly open, eyes darting like she was searching for some invisible escape. Oliver, it's not what it... He opened the folder, pulled out a sheet, and read it aloud. Can't wait to taste those lips tomorrow in your office. He let that sit. So what exactly is it, Melanie? Her shoulders slumped like the air had been knocked out of her. You weren't supposed to know, but I do. His tone didn't waver. And now I'm done. No. Oliver, please. She rushed toward him. Can we talk? I can explain. Things just happened. You were always gone, and he don't. His voice was steel now. Don't try to make this about me working to support this house, this family. I gave you everything I had. You gave someone else what I was never even told was missing. Tears started to gather in her eyes, and she shook her head like a child caught stealing. I messed up. I know I did, but I never wanted to lose you. He exhaled through his nose, a dry, humorless breath. You lost me the moment you lied and smiled in my face while calling another man your second husband. You just didn't know it yet. She reached for his hand. He stepped back. Don't, he said again, firmer. Oliver, please. We can go to counseling. I'll quit the job. I'll block him. We can fix this. We can. He cut her off, picking up the folder and zipping it back into the duffel. You'll be hearing from my lawyer. Her jaw dropped. Wait, what? He looked at her. No hatred in his eyes, just a bone-deep exhaustion. I transferred everything weeks ago. The accounts, the property trust, the retirement funds. All legal. All clean. You'll get the papers soon. At that moment, footsteps echoed on the stairs. Emma, Kyle, both stood on the last few steps, wide-eyed. Emma in pajama shorts, Kyle still holding a game controller. What's going on? Emma asked quietly. Melanie turned, desperate. Your father's making a mistake. Oliver looked at them. His heart wanted to break, but the storm inside had already passed. All that was left was cold rain. Kyle stepped forward. Dad, wait. What is this? You're leaving. Oliver didn't flinch. You made your choices too. The words cut through the room like a blade. Kyle's lips parted, unsure what to say, and Emma looked between them all, understanding settling on her face slower than the rest. Melanie dropped to the couch, hands in her hair, crumbling like an overinflated balloon finally bursting. Oliver turned, opened the front door, and walked back into the fading dusk. The air smelled like coming rain. He didn't look back. Chapter 8. Fallout. The morning sun barely filtered through the motel blinds when Oliver woke to the buzz of his phone. No alarm, no text from Melanie begging him to come home. Just a missed call and a voicemail from an unknown number. He sat up slowly, stretched his back. The mattress had done him no favors, but he felt something better than comfort, clarity. He dressed in silence, brushed his teeth with the small travel kit he now kept by instinct, and finally played the voicemail. Mr. Rourke, this is Michael Dalton. I represent your wife in the preliminary separation proceedings. We need to speak urgently. Please call me back. He didn't smile. Just saved the number, made a black coffee from the lobby Keurig, and called back. Dalton answered on the first ring, like he'd been sitting by the phone. Mr. Rourke, the man said quickly, thank you for returning my call. I'll get to the point. Your actions regarding the financial transfers, the property retitling, the pension fund, all of it appears legally airtight. My client. She was completely unaware. I know, Oliver replied simply. Dalton cleared his throat. May I ask, how long had you been planning this? Long enough. There was silence on the other end. Then a hesitant sigh. Well, she didn't see it coming. Oliver sipped his coffee. Neither did I, he said, until I opened my eyes. Melanie's dream life unraveled like thread in a storm. The same week Oliver walked out, whispers at her office turned to full-on accusations. Screenshots began to circulate. Screenshots Oliver never posted, but someone else must have. Maybe one of the assistants who had seen her flirting, laughing a little too loudly in the hallway with her boss, Brett. It didn't matter how it started. By Friday, HR called her in. Brett wasn't there. The woman from legal sat with arms folded. Due to the circumstances and the impact on company morale and reputation, we're terminating your employment effective immediately. Melanie's jaw dropped. Are you serious? Brett and Mr. Ellis has already submitted his version of events, the HR rep said flatly. He claims you pursued him. He's fully cooperating with the investigation. Wait, he's throwing me under the bus. Melanie's voice rose. That's not. He told me he loved me. But the woman simply handed her an envelope with severance paperwork and stood. Melanie stormed out with a box of her things, and tears barely held behind her sunglasses. By that night, the story had spread to the local gossip page, one of those anonymous community sites where people shared screenshots and whispers without filters. Her name wasn't mentioned at first, but people knew. Office circles were small. Once the connection to Brett Ellis came up, commoners didn't hold back. That's what happens when you ruin a marriage for a fantasy. She had a loyal husband. Now she's got a cardboard box. She called him a paycheck. Karma cashed her out. She tried to delete her social media, but it was too late. Her professional contacts ghosted her. Friends stopped replying. Even her gym buddy, Laura, canceled their dinner plans. At home, Emma and Kyle began to see the cracks. Dinner was frozen pizza 3 nights in a row. Melanie barely spoke, barely looked up from her wine glass. She jumped when her phone buzzed, but never smiled at the screen anymore. Kyle knocked on her door one night. Mom, did you and Dad, is this really happening? Melanie sat on the edge of the bed, staring at her phone. Go to bed, Kyle. Is it true what people are saying? He pressed. That you cheated? She turned slowly, eyes rimmed red. It's complicated. He looked down. He didn't deserve it. Melanie felt the slap of that truth more than anything Oliver ever said. The next day, Emma found Oliver's old flannel jacket in the laundry room and hugged it like a lifeline. Meanwhile, Oliver moved like a ghost in a new world. His mornings began at dawn, runs through quiet parks in a new town. He accepted the HVAC job with better hours, better pay, and no strings attached. His new apartment was modest but clean, simple, peaceful. He kept a small notebook where he wrote things he used to forget about himself. His dreams, his goals, things he'd once pushed aside for her. He only opened the manila folder one more time. Just once. Just to remind himself it had all been real. The The lawyer's voice echoed again in his head. She didn't see it coming. Oliver looked out the window at the sunrise cresting over the buildings. He thought of the years he gave, the family he built, the dignity he reclaimed. Then he whispered to himself a quiet truth. Neither did I, until I opened my eyes. Chapter 9. 1 year later. The early morning sun cast long golden rays through the kitchen window of Oliver's new home in Asheville, North Carolina. It wasn't big. It didn't need to be. 2 bedrooms, a wide porch, and a modest yard that backed up to a patch of trees where cardinals nested in the spring. He stirred his coffee slowly, watching the steam rise. His reflection in the window surprised him sometimes. The man looking back was leaner, sharper. His shoulders filled out his flannel shirt in a way they hadn't since his 20s. His beard was trimmed, and his eyes, once dulled by exhaustion and quiet pain, had a spark now. He took his coffee out to the porch and sat in the rocking chair he'd bought secondhand and refinished himself. Hard to believe it's been a year, he muttered. Down the road, one of his new neighbors, Mike, waved as he loaded up his truck for work. Morning, Dan. Morning. Mike was a retired cop turned small-town mechanic, and they'd bonded over tools and fishing. Oliver had made a few friends like that, simple, loyal people who didn't pry too much, didn't play games, and appreciated silence when needed. Oliver had officially opened his own HVAC franchise 6 months ago. What started with just him and a used work van had turned into a 3-man operation with growing demand. People respected a man who showed up on time, didn't try to upsell them, and actually cared about the work. Every Friday night, the guys grabbed wings and beer at a local dive. On Sundays, Oliver fished out by the lake, sometimes with Mike, sometimes alone. That solitude, once a burden, now felt like a blessing. His phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen. Unknown number. One message. Oliver already knew. It was her again. He didn't even have to open it. She'd started slow, maybe 2 months after the divorce finalized. A simple, "Can we talk?" Then the texts turned desperate. "You don't understand what I was going through. The kids need you. Please just answer. Just once." Sometimes at night, she sent things more broken. "I made a mistake. I'm sorry. I still love you. You were the best thing in my life." Oliver never responded. Not once. He'd stared at the messages a few times, thumb hovering over the keyboard, anger and pity clashing like waves. But in the end, he always locked the screen and let silence be his answer. One afternoon in early spring, a letter arrived. Handwritten, no return address. But he recognized the writing instantly. It was from Emma. "Dad, I don't know if you'll read this. I don't know if you even want to. But I wanted to say I'm sorry. I was wrong. I was so stupid and blinded by everything Mom told us. I thought you didn't care because you were always tired or working. I didn't realize you were doing it all for us. I saw everything after you left. What she became. What we lost. And now I get it. I don't expect anything from you. I just wanted to say I'm sorry. I hope you're happy. You deserve peace. Love." Emma. Oliver sat with that letter on his lap for nearly an hour. No tears, just a full heart and a calm breath. Later that night, he penned a short letter in return. "Emma, I forgive you. You were a kid. You trusted your mother. That's not your fault. What matters is you saw the truth and you're growing from it. That's all a father can ask. I'm doing well. I hope you are too. If you ever want to talk, my door's open. Love always." Dad. He mailed it the next morning. No guarantee she'd reply, but it was enough. Life had taught him the hard way. Peace comes when you stop trying to fix broken things that don't want fixing. One afternoon, after wrapping up a job on the outskirts of town, Oliver stopped at a local produce stand. As he grabbed a basket of tomatoes, a soft voice beside him said, "They're sweeter if you let them sit on the counter a few days." He turned to see a woman, mid-30s, warm smile, sun hat, and worn jeans. Her voice wasn't flirty, just kind. He smiled. "Thanks. I'll give that a try." They chatted a little. Nothing heavy. She asked if he lived nearby. He said yes. She asked if he liked fishing. He said more than he probably should. She laughed. Told him her name was Harmony. Ran a local art studio. They parted ways with a smile. No phone numbers exchanged. But Oliver felt a flicker of something light inside him. Not fire, not passion, just peace. And that was enough. That night, he grilled on the back porch. A light breeze rolled through the trees. He put on a classic rock playlist, kicked his boots up on the railing, and looked at the sky turning deep orange. No chaos, no games, no lies, just quiet, just life. His reward wasn't revenge. It wasn't seeing her fall apart. It was this. Peace. Chapter 10. Final lesson. Oliver sat alone in the quiet of his new living room, the fading light of dusk pooling softly through the window. The hum of the city was a distant memory now, replaced by the steady rhythm of crickets and the occasional rustle of wind through the trees outside. He reached for his journal, now thick with pages of hard-earned wisdom, pain, and hope, and began to write the thoughts that had settled deep into his bones. Sometimes, he started, his voice low and steady in the dim room. The ones you die for are the ones holding the knife. The memory hit him like a punch to the gut. Not just the knife of betrayal, but the deeper wound of shattered trust. Of long nights spent wondering where it all went wrong. Of mornings waking to cold shoulders and unanswered questions. He remembered the early days, the promises whispered beneath the streetlights, the laughter shared over morning coffee, the dreams they built together. Back when Melanie's smile felt like home, and their hands intertwined meant the world. But dreams don't always stay dreams. He closed his eyes, feeling the weight of those moments, the ache of being replaced in a woman's heart by someone who never deserved his kindness. You think love is forever, he continued softly, but sometimes love just teaches you how to let go. His hand rested on the worn leather cover of the journal. He'd written pages and pages about loyalty, sacrifice, and the sting of rejection. But underneath it all, he'd learned something else, something the harshest heartbreaks can teach you. Don't burn yourself, keeping others warm. That phrase had become a quiet mantra during his darkest nights. When he lay awake on the motel bed, staring at a cracked ceiling, it was a reminder that self-worth wasn't tied to how much pain you could endure for someone else. It was about knowing your value, even when the people you love forget it. Oliver's gaze drifted toward the corner where a faded photo of his family once hung, a ghost of the life he'd lost. But there was no bitterness in his eyes now, just clarity. He thought about the kids, Emma and Kyle, and the way they had turned against him for so long. It hurt more than anything else. But time had begun to thaw that coldness. Emma's letter was a fragile olive branch, and Oliver had answered with an open heart, knowing forgiveness wasn't weakness, it was strength. He looked at his hands, rough from years of work, hands that had built, fixed, and provided. Hands that had quietly carried the burden of silence and anger without breaking. People show you who they are, he murmured, so believe them. That truth had been the hardest to accept. To see someone you loved morph into a stranger, hiding behind lies and excuses. But accepting it gave him power. Power to walk away without rage, without desperation. Power to rebuild. Oliver stood and moved to the window, the sky now a tapestry of stars. The vastness of the night reminded him how small his problems seemed when viewed from the right perspective. He remembered the last words he said to Melanie, calm, cold, and final. So, how long have I been just a paycheck to you? The look on her face, the faltering denial, the crack in her voice, it was a moment he would never forget. But instead of breaking, he had found himself growing stronger. He recalled the quiet transfer of assets, the late-night meetings with his lawyer, the phone calls that sealed his future away from the betrayal. All done without a shout or a tear, just silent, methodical reclaiming of his life. There was a peculiar kind of dignity in that, a reclaiming of self that no anger-fueled outburst could achieve. His new life wasn't about revenge, it was about respect. Respect for himself. And it was working. He ran a successful HVAC business now, one built on hard work and honesty. He surrounded himself with people who valued him for who he was, not what he could provide. Weekends spent fishing, quiet dinners, laughter with new friends, small things that felt like huge victories. He thought about the woman he'd met at the market, Harmony. She wasn't a replacement. Not yet. Maybe not ever. She was a sign of hope, of life beyond the pain, of new beginnings without shadows. Oliver smiled for the first time in years, a genuine, unforced smile. He closed his journal and set it aside. Walking away wasn't weakness, he whispered to the night. It was the start of becoming the man I was meant to be.